Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Welcome back. We go around and say our names, and that is a perfect example of what I'm grateful for. This Sangha, the collective energy of this Sangha. Stefan helps me with the recorder, and Richard told me to remind me of turning the phones off. I mean, it's a wonderful Sangha, and it's always an honor and a privilege to be around all of you. So that's what I'm grateful for. And my name is George.
And I'm George. Gratitude for this day.
My name is Kay, and I'm grateful for my health.
I'm Baruch, and I'm grateful for friends.
I am Victor. I'm grateful for having a good family.
My name is Michael, and I'm also grateful for friends.
My name is Janae, and I'm grateful for my health.
My name is Christian, and I'm grateful for all of you being here today.
My name is Stefan, and I'm grateful for the fellowship here in Sangha.
My name is Tony, and I'm grateful that this group exists, that we can meet together.
My name is Mark, and I'm grateful for family and friends.
I'm Brad. I'm grateful for comfort.
I'm Susan, and it's a really gorgeous day today. And also, I'm glad I found this place.
I'm Mike. I'm grateful for this community, and I'm grateful for the day. It's a beautiful day.
My name is Harley, and I'm grateful for friends, family, our Sangha, and the opportunity to be present in San Francisco with all the opportunities and benefits and challenges.
I'm Salwell. I'm grateful for my family, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to practice here.
I'm Kevin. I'm grateful for the day.
I'm Richard, and I'm grateful to be living in San Francisco and all the wonderful things in the forest.
I'm Gon. I'm grateful for every breath I'm taking, and for those of you who are sharing air in this room.
I'm Jay. I'm grateful for my health.
I'm Bob. I'm grateful for the Gay Buddhist Fellowship, for the community that it offers, and the wisdom that it offers as well.
My name is Jeff, and I'm grateful for GPF as well.
My name is Jerry, and I'm grateful for the friends and the Sangha in my life.
My name is Clint, and forgive me, I just want to take a few seconds, I'll be quick. This afternoon I'm going to go to Hal Hirsch's memorial, and in less than 2 weeks I'm going to be 70 years old. So I'm an old man, by most definition. Hal and I were partners 40 years ago, and we fell apart, and then we joined GBF, and just meditating, just look back on my life, all those years that went by, memories of Hal and other things in my life. And I've been in this Sangha since almost the beginning. It was like about 3 or 4 weeks old before I joined. And this is like, I don't know, 26, 27 years ago. I am so sorry. I'm so fucking grateful for the Sangha and for the people here who have aged with me over the years and who have come in later. There's some things I have in my life I'm grateful for, some things I don't have in my life that I wish I had, but GBF has been such a cornerstone in my life, and I just really love you all, and thank you.
I'm Larry, and I'm very grateful for my sibling.
My name is Jim. I'd like to. Well, I'm very grateful for Marie Gavranovic and her example of courage and integrity in government. Besides loving all of you.
I'm Jack, grateful for being here.
My name's Bill. I'm grateful for a lot. I'm really grateful for Clint for opening up my heart right now too in a pretty big way. So thank you for that.
For those of you who don't know Bill Weber, I know him from facilitating our retreat a few years ago. Did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to read his bio. Bill Weber is a senior Vipassana practitioner and a graduate from Spirit Rock Community Dharma Leaders Program. He has 25 years of extensive retreat practice and currently practices at home with his husband or sits with a small group of gay men. He is also a documentary filmmaker and video editor whose latest projects are To Be Takei and Untold Tales of Armistead, Maupin. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
One thing I love about gratitude, and I'm going to talk about gratitude today if you haven't figured that out already, just the way it can open the heart, and the expression of it can just be so loving that, you cry, that you can be so grateful that you just sort of break down in tears, and it's just a wonderful place. It's to be that full of gratefulness. I had recently a prolonged experience of gratitude that sort of shook me and taught me a lot, and that I really, really loved. And that led me to want to talk about that today. And of course, it's, we're 10 days away from Thanksgiving, so I thought, that's so appropriate to talk about gratitude right around Thanksgiving, giving thanks. And then I thought, maybe I've done this before. And I looked on the GBF audio website of Dharma Talks, and I gave a talk on gratitude 15 years ago this week. It's like, oh my God, I'm a cliche. And I listened to it, and a lot of the things I sort of wanted to talk about today, it's like, I already talked about that here 15 years ago. So it was a little... I momentarily thought maybe I should talk about something else, but no, I want to talk about gratitude and sort of my recent experience with it, and also just offer it as something that is such a wonderful thing to invite into your life and to help manifest and to help nurture. It's just this sense of gratitude. And the other thing I wanted to do around gratitude was build an energy feeling of gratitude in the room that we all can partake of, and that we all can maybe experience in some way. So that I really appreciate everybody offering their own sense of gratitude into this. I looked up gratitude the other day just to sort of see what the dictionary said about it. And it's from a Latin word gratus, meaning pleasing or thankful, an appreciation felt and or similar positive response shown by the recipient of kindness, which I thought was sort of a weird definition in a way, but it's either the response of kindness or the recipient of kindness. The other thing that I found sort of unusual about gratitude is that it's been recently studied more, and part of the studying of it was because they realized psychology was more traditionally focused on understanding distress than on understanding positive emotions. And it sort of seems like that's more the way us humans can have a tendency to go. It's like we try to deal with the stress instead of trying to promote and nurture the positive emotions. So, and that psychology in the year 2000 is just starting to say, oh, maybe we should look at it the other way around. I mean, I don't know how accurate that is, but I found that sort of interesting. Gratitude is, as I said, it's really one of my favorite emotions. It just brings up such a sense of aliveness, connection, presence. When you have gratitude towards something, it's very immediate, and you're present, and you're there. It's such a sense of joy, of happiness. And it also helps me personally connect with the fact that everything in each moment is a gift, and to connect with the gratitude of that just being given. The fact that we can be here with this community, it's a gift. The fact that we can sit in silence together. The fact that when we're sitting in silence, we're paying attention to this breath that just comes in, gives us life, revitalizes our body. It's all a gift. The sense of being able to see each other, to hear each other, to touch each other. The sense that we have a history with each other. I mean, I look around this room too, and I came in today, and it was like, I was around in the early years of GBF too, so I have a long history here, but I also have histories with a lot of people here in different walks of my life, and you're all a gift, and you're all a gift to me, and we are to each other. So that to connect with the fact that we're constantly being given our life that sustains us, our food that feeds us, our friends that support us, the air that, we breathe. To have gratitude for that just really connects us with the gift of life, and with the gift of being here, and with the gift of presence, of being here now. I've worked with Clint for a number of years, for a long time on the dinners that you do. And I wasn't able to do it last night, but I did it a month ago. And one thing that really got me was when the kids would come by and get the meal, I was amazed at how many of them would look us directly in the eye and just say thank you. And it was a thank you from a really deep place. And it feels so good to receive that, but it's also just so good to witness that and to be part of that in a way. Just this sense of gratitude. Since I'm a documentary filmmaker, there's the award season's coming up for documentary films. And there's a lot of films being shown in town right now that they invite people to see the film and then to hopefully vote for the film for an Academy Award or for some kind of festival award or for something like that. So I've been invited to a lot of films recently, and I've seen some really amazing documentaries. And two in particular really struck me. One was a film called Vipassana, which is about this woman who was a journalist in Aleppo in Syria, and her husband who was a doctor. And they stayed in Aleppo for the 3 years while the city fell. And she documented it with her camera. She had a baby. She documented that in the midst of all this. And she stayed there with the baby. And her husband cared for people while the Russians were bombing the hospitals. And it's horror like you couldn't believe. But they stayed there. They formed a community, and they took care of people. And so they invited me to see this film, and this woman and her husband were there. And I just went over to them, and it was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It just felt so good to to express that, and to feel that to them. Their bravery, their love, their selflessness. Just something that I was very aware of how grateful I was to them for that. It's a recent film experience that led me to my recent experience of prolonged gratitude. As a documentary filmmaker, I'm mainly an editor, and so mainly I get hired by other people to work on jobs, and it becomes a very tight relationship where, I call it these mini marriages. They last anywhere from 9 months to a year and a half or something like that, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. But it's a very intense relationship that oftentimes turns out to be a really good marriage, but sometimes turns out to be a really difficult one. And I was on a film recently with a filmmaker who was a very good friend, and it got very contentious and it got very ugly. And I ended up feeling like I was nastily dumped by somebody that I really loved. And it really, really hurt. And I was even questioning whether I wanted to sign up for another one. It's just like, it's like any relationship. The good ones are like, oh, these are great, and the bad ones are like, oh my God, they can sort of destroy you. But I got a call from this woman, and she wanted to do a film about two people that had reached some level of attainment. And she said, I don't want to use this word too much, but these two people have reached some level of enlightenment. Would you be interested in doing a film about it? And I was like, oh, enlightenment? My feeling of enlightenment was always, as soon as somebody said they were enlightened, that was a good clue that they aren't. But I met with this woman, and she's my age, and has a long time Theravadan Buddhist practice, like many of us here do. And we really sort of clicked, and I said, one thing I also realized about filmmaking is that not only are the relationships really intense, but the story that I'm trying to tell becomes very internalized. And it becomes part of my life. And that's also, when it goes good, it's really beautiful and healing, and when it goes bad, it can be really disruptive. But this was about a Qigong teacher who led these two students to some level of attainment. And a lot of it was about a heart practice. And she goes, would you be interested in working with me on this? And I said, yeah, I think that would really be good for me to really sort of get back into my heart and to pay attention and to invite this into my life after this really sort of nasty experience. So I took the project on, and it's been life-changing in a lot of ways. I didn't know much about Qigong practice. I've done it some on retreat, and I know that our friend Jim here has a Qigong practice and offered it on the retreat that I was on with the GBF group. And it's an interesting practice, and I think it's very co-symbiotic, or it can coexist beautifully with a good meditation and Buddhist practice. And for those of you who don't know much about Qigong, and I'll do my best to do a little brief explanation of it, and Jim, back me up or correct.
I trust you.
Yeah, but the Qi is an energy, and part of what I was doing with having people talk about gratitude at the beginning of this was, like I said, trying to build the energy of gratitude in the room. Qi is the energy of life. Qi is like a breath. Qi is like a spirit, but Qi permeates everything. Everything. And Qi is universal. It's not only our Qi, it's the Qi of the universe. And a Qigong practice, of which there are many different styles, I believe, really helps honor our own internal Qi. The energy of the body, the energy of the individual organs, the energy of the channels, the energy of the meridians. And how to care for that, how to replenish it, how to grow it, how to nurture it, how to open it up. one chi practice that can be very simple and very helpful is this. It's what's called pulling chi, and you can just open and close the hands, and you can just sort of feel the energy that grows and the warmth that comes from the chi getting closer to your hands. And you can just sort of nurture this chi. It can be very centering, very calming. And it's been an interesting practice for me in the sense that I realize my sense of body energy has always been very, very strong. When I was a kid, I had so much energy I would go to sleep at night by rocking my legs back and forth sort of violently. I just had this energy in my body. And it's driven me crazy a lot of times. It's a huge gift, but it's also sort of hard to control. But this whole chi practice has made me really conscious of how do I preserve it? How do I not just like spit it out all the time and scream, which I have a big tendency of doing. And how do I hold it and maybe use it more wisely and stuff. So that's just a little bit about Qi and the Qigong practice. But this film is about this Chinese teacher who left China, I don't know, some 20 years ago and moved to New Zealand and started teaching people from around the world his practice. And he has about 200 students that he's been working with for about 10 years. And 2 people reached this level of attainment. And one is this young man in Portugal, and another is this woman, a housewife in New Zealand. And so this woman director went out, got a really good cinematographer, spent a week in New Zealand with Dory, the woman, and a week in Portugal with Norberto, the man, and came back, and then went on a retreat with the 2 of them. They do retreats in Southern California, a place outside of Fresno called Wonder Valley, and did some recording there with the Chinese teacher, Yancey, and the participants, and then comes to me and brings me all this footage. So then I sit in my house for the next 6 months or so with this footage and having this information come to me about what these people are saying is what's happened to them, what their childhood was like, what their life was like, what doing the Qi practice was like, and then what happened to them when they each had a moment when things changed. And things changed dramatically, and after they changed, it really hasn't changed back. And I believe it. But one good thing about Qi, too, is that Qi has information in it. Qi is filled with, and that's why I wanted to bring the information of gratitude into the Qi of the room. Well, I'm sitting in my house for, like I say, for 6 months and just listening to these people talk, and I'm hearing this really beautiful information about opening the heart, trusting that everything is going to be okay, the way things will happen the way they were supposed to. They will happen, and to trust in that, to not fight it, but to allow it, to have an openness to allow that to happen. All this information I'm just sort of sitting with, and it's having an effect on me. I can tell. I'm paying much more attention to my heart. And that's one thing that's particular to, I don't know how particular, but it's one thing that this Qigong teacher, Yancey, really emphasizes, is really care of the heart. You really care for the heart. And you pay attention to the heart. The mind is a powerful tool, but the heart is where things really happen. And the heart is really, you pay attention to the trust. That's where the trust comes in, that everything's going to happen the way it's going to happen, and it's going to be okay. The openness that I can allow anything to come in. And a big quality of the heart is gratitude. The nurturing and the paying attention and the building of gratitude in one's life. And this, I can tell it was starting to work with me just by having this information in my edit room all day, every day. And working with this woman. And this woman, Kim, my client, would come in and she would say, she'd go, Norberto and Dory are with us today, and their energy is here in the room with us. And they would even say, oh yeah, we're with you today. And they would sort of know what was going on sometimes. I might sound like a cult member up here, that indoctrinated in some ways. And in some ways, I can't tell you this is all true. But what I can tell you is that I don't really care, because if I'm going to believe a fantasy, it's a really beautiful fantasy to believe in. And it's healthy, and it's made me happier, and it's really built up my sense of gratitude. But anyway, so we're going down. They're having another retreat in Southern California, and then we want to show some of our work in progress. So I go down there and I meet Noberto and I meet Yancey, the teacher. And if you meet Noberto, I mean, the first thing you would notice, especially everybody in this room, is how handsome he is. He's just this gorgeous, 35-year-old Portuguese man. But his presence is it's so easy. He's just so easy to be around. And what really makes me believe there's some substance to what they're talking about is there's no ego. He has no ego. And he allows everything to come in. And I watch him with a group of like 100 people, and he will invite everybody in and hold everybody the same way. And since he has this ease about him and this presence, people want to be around him. So he has to deal with a lot, but he's completely fine with it. The other thing that happened to me on this retreat was just some healing practices where the energy of the room would be brought in to heal the body. And we did one practice where you put your hand out and the energy was coming through your hand, and your other hand you just sort of bring it around your body. And my body would just sort of dissolve. And it was like, there's something to this. I've been doing all kinds of spiritual practices for a long time, but I've never experienced anything quite like this before, where my sense of body could almost dissolve. And that's because our energetic body is not contained in here. It's out. It's outside the body, too. So anyway, I come back from that retreat, and I can tell I'm a little bit changed. And then they're having a big international retreat in Sweden. And I'm like, and we're going to show the first cut of the film at this retreat. And we're also going to film some new things at this retreat, film some new interviews. And Dory from New Zealand's going to be there, who I really like, because Dory's voice was in my head all the time about just open your heart. Just open your heart. And that was just like, became my mantra, and it was in her voice, and I hadn't met her. And so I go to Sweden, go on this retreat, and I see her, and I just go over, and I'm like bowing to her. I'm just so grateful for what she's already brought into me. And she didn't really know who I am at this point, but, which is completely fine. But this retreat was a 9-day retreat for me, and I wanted to be a participant. I really wanted to dig in deep, besides just presenting the film and being involved in a day or two shooting of the film. And it had a profound effect on me. And like day 3 of the retreat, my heart opened in a way I'd never experienced before. It was limitless. It knew no boundaries. And I was crying all the time. And it was crying of gratitude. Everything was so beautiful. And I can feel it now. I can just feel that, the size of the heart and the openness of it, and the gratitude I had for that. And I realized a really big part of that was a lot of what I heard this morning about community. It's about the support we give one another. It's about the love and the openness that we share with each other. And that's what I was feeling there. And that really was the framework for me to really open my heart in a way I hadn't experienced before. And to be able to spend time with Roberto and Dory and Yancey like that was just so sweet. Yancey's this little, and he's, probably 5'4" Chinese man who just beams happiness. He just beams it. And he only speaks in Chinese. His wife, Melissa, is Chinese, but she translates for him. So they're sort of a pair that move around. They're just lovely people. But I came back from that retreat, and one thing I noticed, gratitude was immediate and always present and effortless. And it was like that for days, maybe weeks, I'm not real sure. But I could just, whatever I was doing, I could just think gratitude, and everything would come flooding in. I was grateful for everything that was given, and it was a full body sense of gratitude that was really overwhelming. And I fucking loved it. It felt so good to be that connected, to be that appreciative, to be that thankful. And it was just like, oh, this is the way life's going to be. And I don't know. Woke up one morning, it's like, okay, what's my gratitude? It's like, where is it? It's not there. And then I kept on looking for it. It's like, and then like the next day, it's like, I'm going to work, or I'm passing somebody on the street, and it's like, what's that asshole doing? And the old Bill was back. So it was just something to pay attention to, but it was also a good thing to reflect on about what were the conditions that allowed the gratitude to flow so easily, to be so present, and what can I do to continue to nurture that so that maybe even if I don't live in that state all the time, that it's still there for me to appreciate. And it's also what was part of that that made it so accessible to me that I can offer to everybody here, because what I would love to do is just if everybody went out and had a couple of moments of gratitude that were inspired by this talk, I've done well. And that's what I'd like to offer. So a lot of what it is just sort of what I've been talking about. That gratitude comes with an open heart. That gratitude comes with a sense of trust. That to fully trust that things are going to be fine the way they are, especially in these times that are very challenging, that we're, I gave up watching the news on election night a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. It's just like I don't want that information in my life. I read the paper, and sometimes I think I should be watching at least some news program to really get a sense of more of what's happening in the world. But there's a lot of things that can get me into sort of a dark state and thinking that things aren't happening the way they're supposed to be happening. But things are happening the way they're happening, and in that, in and of itself, is they're happening the way they're supposed to be happening. And we don't know the outcome of what that's going to be. And to trust that everything's going to be fine and that we're going to be fine in the midst of that. With that kind of trust and openness in the heart, gratitude just arises very, very naturally. And that's what I was saying. It was just so effortless. It was just there and present. It's also good to remind ourselves that, as I said earlier, this is all a gift. To be able to sit with each other. To be able to be out on this beautiful morning in San Francisco with the way the sky is this morning, the way the air is this morning. To be able to share friendships and hugs. To be aware of the energy that we give each other, the chi that we give each other. I got so much good chi from all of you guys when I came in here this morning. And then you can witness it to be shared amongst others. This helps foster a sense of gratitude. As I mentioned that, there's information in the energy, and what information do we allow ourselves to sit with? And we have some control over that. It's what do we read? What kind of shows do we watch? What kind of movies do we watch? What kind of music do we listen to? All of this stuff can help feed us in a way that helps foster a sense of openness, a sense of love, a sense of gratitude. That we can build on that gratitude. One thing I learned from this film is that how we use our minds to to redirect where we live, redirect how we live. The mind's important, the heart is key, but the mind can really help facilitate all of this. I write all these notes, and I find it helpful to have sort of an outline to sort of help gather my thoughts and stuff, but I've been sort of not paying attention to them so much, which is sort of my preferred way to talk, is just to really try to go with what I'm feeling. One thing Norberto taught me is Norberto is starting to teach now, and on retreat, Norberto would be up giving a talk to about 100 people, and he said Yonsei would tell him right before he got up on stage what he was going to talk about. So he had no idea to even prep, to really speak from a place of openness and a place of trust, and to really help develop those skills. And I was thinking about that this morning as I was going through my notes and saying this. And even when we were sitting here in silence, I started to think, well, this would be a good way to open it. And then it was like, can I remember that? And it was like, no, just trust. Whatever's going to happen is going to be okay. It's that trust again. It's really, it can be key, and it can be very liberating. So, and it's not constant. I still, being a fear-based person, I still pull back and question that sometimes. But so just in closing, nurture gratitude, foster it, welcome it, make it into a practice. One thing I was thinking about in doing this, the different religious practices, and gratitude is part of basically every main religion on the planet. And one thing I used to experience with some of my Jewish friends was Shabbat. And one thing I loved about Shabbat was you get together on Friday night and you give thanks for the week that was. It's a practice of thankfulness. When you bow to the Buddha, it's a practice of gratitude, of thankfulness. So look for these opportunities, and look for these areas of practice that you can bring in. Just from, as I said, from my own recent experience of gratitude, and from witnessing it here this morning, it's such a great place to live. It's such a beautiful place to be. I think I'm going to open it up for questions now. And one thing I want to say before I close, I brought a lot of little pieces of paper that have a link to this film that I worked on. It's a 50-minute film, and if anybody's interested, I'd love for you to watch it, because it's full of love, it's full of heart, and you get to meet these beautiful people and get a sense of their practice and how their life is transformed. Because part of what, and they have unbelievable gratitude for everything, but like I say, part of what their sense of attainment looks like is a sense of gratitude, and is a sense of there's not an ego. The ego sort of dissipates, which is really something to witness. And you can witness it in yourself and in others in a moment, and we all have these moments where we do become sort of selfless, but it's sort of a beautiful place to live. So I will, if anybody would like one, I'd be happy to give you a link. And we just finished it Tuesday this week. And what's amazing about this in a way too is the gratitude that everybody that's worked on the film has felt towards it. We have a cinematographer that's from Spain, and he's sort of a curmudgeonly guy, and he's been transformed. We have a composer in Berkeley, and he keeps on thanking me for bringing the film to him. And this isn't a film that's going to it's not a Sundance film. You know, it's not going to be an HBO film. It's a film I call it an infomercial. And it is. It's selling a practice and it's selling a way of being. But just the level, and so the people that have been working on it basically work on high-level films, and they're thanking us for the ability to work on this film. So there's something to it. So, again, gratitude. So, I'm grateful for your attention. I'm grateful that I'm done. And we have about 10 minutes for comments or questions or more expressions of gratitude. And here, I can't stop talking. Clint, I want to thank you personally for what you've done for this group for so many years, because you've been doing dinners. You've been doing dinners for a long time, and those dinners it's about community, because I also really connect with other people in the group there, and it's about offering a gift to other people. And from Hamilton House to Larkin Street, it's been beautiful to be a part of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jeff.
Thank you. I didn't plan that. For an inspiring time. I'm wondering if you could say more about how chi is a type of information.
I wish I knew more about that. It's been more an experiential thing for me than a thing that I can probably talk about in a coherent way. But I remember walking into the room with Yonsei, and he would make a comment like, the chi is really strong in the room right now. The chi is full of a lot of good information. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But then things would happen like where my heart would open in a way that I've never experienced before in that room. It's like there's something going on here. So I don't really quite know. One thing I relate it to is that when you walk into a room and people are really getting along, you can feel it. And there's that information in the room. And when you walk into the room where there's somebody really angry, or there's a big fight going on, or there's a fist fight going on, there's a different chi in the room, and you can feel it. And it's this energetic movement that happens. So how to foster good chi and maybe avoid the bad, I don't know. But I also thought about just the information that I get in my edit room when I'm sitting with these people and I'm hearing what they're doing, and I'm also just looking in their face and getting a sense of that kind of energy and that kind of information. Mm-hmm. So I just sort of believe it without really understanding it.
I understand.
Say what?
I understand.
Yeah.
I noticed that the Sangha will stay a lot longer after the talks, when the talks are particularly heart-opening and good, and the energy is really good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bill. That was really helpful. Especially, I'm also going to Hal's memorial, and I was realizing as I was sitting here is that I'm so grateful for him.
Yeah.
I was wondering if the work that you're doing, if you could talk about being grateful for things that are unpleasant, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I feel like my orientation has always been, they're this category.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
That's a really good question, and something I thought about talking about a bit about. And one thing I was reading, and one thing I talked about 15 years ago, were these Buddhist monks who were really grateful for the suffering they're given, because they say it helps them wake up, and it teaches them. I realize it's very easy for me to foster gratitude because I have a very easy life. I've been given gifts that I don't understand, that I'm very grateful for. that most people don't have. I mean, some of it's white male privilege. Some of it's I've never been hungry. Some of it I have a great community of friends. Some of it is I have the Dharma. I have all these gifts that, each and every one of those is a very precious thing that, 80% of the world's population doesn't have. Or more. And I have an abundance. And so for me, and I even thought about this, talking about gratitude, it's like, hell yes, you should feel gratitude because, you don't have hardships. I have health. I have a wonderful husband. It goes on and on and on. And it's like, what would it be like if I had challenges? And even small challenges really get me off kilter sometimes. With my skin complexion and my bald head and stuff, I'm prone to getting cancer on my head and stuff. So I put this cream on every year that causes these red spots. And I feel like, I can't go outside. I have these big red spots on my head. I don't deal with small challenges very well sometimes. So it's a good question. I don't know, but I do believe, like I said about the monks, that our suffering is a gift too. And that we can learn from that. Is Trump a gift? Not in my eyes, but again, going back to that trust, and also there has to be some gift in that someplace, and I don't know what it is, but that's a good practice for me to pay attention to. I think for all of us in here too is, can we be grateful for the hardships sometimes, and the challenges that we have. Because we learn and we grow. I mentioned that film that I worked on that was really challenging, and I think I learned something from that. I know I learned something from that, and how to take and to be grateful for that. So, yeah. So that's for all of us to look at. How are we grateful for the shit that we're handed? So.
I met you at the dinner, and I've been taking Qigong here for like 3 or 4 years. It's
right.
Friday morning.
We talked about that.
Yeah, and I think it's really hard to describe energy, though. So
yeah.
You did a good job. When I've tried to tell friends about it, it's like, it's not like yoga. You're not supposed to do it at full strength. That's one thing I think is very not Western. You're supposed to do it maybe 50%. You're not supposed to force it or anything. And as far as being with when bad things happen, the teacher I have, she always says, you just got to bring it all in. You just got to be with it. It's sort of like meditation.
Right.
It's part of it, but anyway. So it's energy. I think it is hard to describe.
Yeah.
And they also do medical qigong. And she teaches that.
Right.
And she's going to speak here, right, Jeff?
February.
Yeah, it's a healing part. This Chinese teacher that I've been working with was a doctor in China, and back in the before China became as westernized or as modern as it has, they used it a lot in hospitals and stuff to heal people. They're doing it less now because now they're believing more in Western medicine, from what I understand. And it's had a healing effect on me for sure. And you can direct it to organs. Different organs have different qi and. Yeah.
There was a clinic here until last year that did free medical qigong, and I went to it. The students would practice on you, and I said, "Well, how do I describe this to people? Because I always want to share things." And they said, "Well, say it's like acupuncture without needles," because they would just go like this. I opened my eyes when I was laying on the table, and I was like, "Okay," But it did help.
Yeah.
Of course, I believe in that.
If people have more questions about Qigong too, I think Jim could probably be a good resource because you have a long-term practice.
I do, but in terms of Jeff's question, just a simple checking in the Qi. Some days it's very faint, and other days it's like an outboard motor,
Yeah.
So it's not always the same.
Right. But to also how to work with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
I'm wondering whether you think there's a skillful relationship between the heart and the ego. Because one thing I think about in terms of being open is, is there still discernment there about self-care? There's so much suffering in the world that sometimes to be open is too much.
It's too much.
So that really the flexibility to, just like the heart expands and contracts to keep us alive, that sometimes we open, sometimes we close.
Yeah.
But I just think most of us have an ego and are going to continue to. So,
oh, God, yeah.
So, how to have the ego be informed by the heart in some way.
Yeah. Huh. Boy, I don't know. And when I say Dory and Alberto, they're egoless, if they were in the room, they wouldn't appear any different. I mean, they certainly know how to take care of themselves in a deep way. So I don't think to have your ego in check or to have your ego I don't know if you ever really completely lose it, because it's tied in with personality and history and generations and being human and all of that stuff. So I don't know if you ever really completely lose it, but it doesn't rule you and you see it maybe. And in that way you're egoless, is that it's not running your life. But in the midst of that, you also are probably better able to take care of yourself because you understand, this is too much. I have to pull back, Right. I don't know. The other thing is, what's too much is a question too. How much can we hold? Can we hold it all? I don't know. But I also know that, I can't. That I have to pull back and I have to take care of myself. So, that's what's beautiful about all of this. It's the whole practice of inquiry and of like looking at it closely. But it's also where do we rest our mind? What do we fill our minds with? And questions about am I taking care of myself is a good one. Questions about am I fostering my gratitude? It's a good one. So,
Thank you, Bill. Do you have announcements?
Hi, I'm the host today. There's hot water for tea. When you're finished with your cup, you can put it in the sink or put it in the dishwasher. Also, very generously, there was an apple pie left last night.
Apple cranberry raisin pie.
Oh, excuse me. And so that is there for your enjoyment. There's also some other refreshments. The only thing we asked, we're going to clean the forks. They're plastic forks. So put them in the sink when you're finished. And also at 12:30, people meet to go to lunch. If you'd like to go to lunch. I'll be coming around with the Dharma bowl, and suggested donation is $10 to $20. And also on the credenza, if you'd like to be in the GBF directory, there's a sign-up list.
Anybody else? Jeff?
Last week I asked how many people planned to attend Hal's memorial, and the person who's facilitating it was concerned about having enough time for all the people to talk. So could you raise your hands if you're planning to talk at the memorial?
I don't know. It depends upon whether there is time or not.
Okay, thanks.
Just one thing, Bill, you mentioned you'd have slips of paper with a link for the film. Where would we?
I'll give them to you outside. They're in my backpack, and
Okay.
I'll be out there.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. There will be an annual GBF Thanksgiving Day potluck at my place in East Bay. So if you're interested in attending, there are flyers on the credenza. So take one, and we appreciate it if you could RSVP so that we will know how many people will be attending and what kind of dishes they plan to bring. So thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Anyone else? Next week, I believe it's the gentleman that lives upstairs, right? Prashant. There you go. Thank you. We'll be facilitating this. I mean, we'll be our speaker. Yeah. Time to gather in a circle.
By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness in the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow in the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, believing in the equality of all that lives.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.